Hi, everyone, and welcome to the London Community Week podcast, the show that spotlights the brilliant minds and bold ideas shaping the future of community building across the UK and beyond. I'm your host, Kate Bova. If you are part of a startup, a nonprofit, or a global SaaS company, and you care about connection, meaningful impact, and community driven growth, you're in the right place. This episode is brought to you with the support to our incredible partners, led by Community, Gainsight, Circle, Heyorka, Canva, Bevy, Discourse, Mansion. Together, they are helping the community industry thrive by providing the tools to grow, engage, and make a real difference at scale. Today, I'm so happy to introduce our guest, Pete Heslop. Pete Heslop is an award-winning 10 plus years digital expert, having led digital agencies for over 10 years. Over those 10 years, Pete and his team have built platforms used by millions of people worldwide. People Pete believes that community is foundation for regenerative business growth, alongside leading Steadfast Collective through year-on-year growth. He is passionate about educating UK founders, CEOs, and CMOs about community-led marketing through his various content strips. Pete, welcome to the podcast. It's a big pleasure to have you here.
Oh, thanks for the intro. No, it's good to be here. I'm very excited.
Wow. So let's start with you. Tell us more about your role right now and the kinds of digital projects or communities that you're working on right now.
Yeah, no worries. So, like you mentioned, I've been building technical products for a long time. My background, I did theatre as my education, and then I moved into web development and ran various agencies. And then 10 years ago, I co-founded Steadfast Collective with my wife. And since then, we have been building out these great technical, kind of complex websites for membership groups and communities. The reason we ended up kind of doing what we do was we were building out these fantastic websites with our team, and our team are kind of scattered all over the UK. And it's a range of designers and developers and whatnot. And we five years ago during the pandemic, I really had a bit of a moment where I was kind of I was struggling with what we were doing. I was having a bit of a moment, and I was like, why does everything feel so tough at the moment? And then somebody asked me to point out the projects that really kind of brought me alive, and that was when I noticed that it was the projects where the clients were building out community were the one that was really sparking joy. And since that moment, we have gone all in on how do we build the best bespoke community platforms we can. So I dived head first into meeting as many community managers as I could, learning their pain points. We've written a couple of books. We've launched a podcast. We've done as much as we can to try and involve ourselves in this community world. So that way, when we are working with these membership organizations and whatnot, we can really understand what their pain points are. And that's what I do. So my job is to understand the pain points of community managers, and then the team build out these incredible platforms for when something like, Circle or Bevy isn't quite the right fit for them. We then build something out that's completely bespoke.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about different fields that you're working with, because you mentioned about different community managers. Can you tell us more? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no worries. So a good example is always quite a few years ago, we built out a platform for the UK's largest cross-stitch community. So really niche. They build out cross-stitch materials and they sell them, and they're a shop. And their founder came to us with an idea, and she wanted to be able to build a platform where people could upload pictures or design their own cross-stitch patterns, turn them into a pattern, and then sell them on a marketplace. So really niche. So we needed to learn all about cross-stitch. Yeah. And then we built them out a marketplace. So essentially, they had their own version of like Etsy, selling out these designs. And it was incredibly complex. And it was something that you would never be able to build into an off-the-shelf product. So we got involved in that. We learned so much about cross-stitch. We learned so much about what their users' needs were. And that's just one example. It could be caravans, it could be trucks the size of houses. You know, we work in so many random niches, but the underlying theme is always people. People is always the underlying theme.
I understand you, because we're working also a lot with different niches, different fields, and it's from the one side it's big interesting story. From the other side, it's a big challenge, because you always need to deep dive into different niches and to find the best solutions for them.
Yeah, and you find yourself with really random information in your head that you never thought you would know. So for instance, I could tell you the various layouts of this very one specific camper van because we worked so long to make sure we got the website correctly, and that was our example. Or I could tell you what a backstitch was in cross stitch or a double stitch, and so on and so on. So you learn these really kind of niche information buckets. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love it. And what I love is when we get to work with either CMOs or founders or community managers, their only care is about the community and results. Where when we work with technical people, they care about the underlying technology. Now, for us, we love technology, and that's what we want to handle. We want you to worry about the results and the people. So when we get that great split of us working with a CMO or a founder or a CM, it complements our skill sets better rather than having like this big overlap on what we're doing. So yeah, it always works nicely.
Yeah, I love that. And you mentioned about community and result. How do you measure it? How do you help your clients to measure the result of communities? How to measure the impact to businesses?
Yeah, for sure. That's something we're working on a lot last night. Actually, it was what was keeping me up last night. I was thinking, what can we do better to build out a better resource for our clients, and how do we connect the dots between what we're doing and that? We've got the obvious ones. You've got the clients we're working with, they already have their own data analysis and whatnot, and they already have Google Analytics and all that jazz. But what can we do better to join the dots between member engaging? Does that equal less churn or higher profit? Like, what does that do? Currently, it's on a use by use basis, but I would love for us as a team to build out something unified that we can use on all of our clients, because I think everybody has very similar situations and we're finding ourselves building it time and time again. I think there's probably something reusable we can build.
Maybe you have some, I know that it depends, of course, of niche, of goals, but maybe you have some your favorite metrics or something that you always measure doing communities.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. And we would, you've got all the kind of the like the before metrics, your engagement, your signups, all of that stuff. And then you kind of got your results metrics, whether it's churn, signups, etc. And I think for us, what we have learned in, a lot of years of doing this now is it's nearly always the metric that your boss's boss cares about is generally profit. So how can we link what you're doing as a CM to the business goals, which generally is profit? And how do we join those dots? Because it can be quite hard to join those dots sometimes, and we need to do a better job of making it easier for our CMs to look like superstars to their boards, to their VCs, whatever it is. So yeah.
Yeah, brilliant advices actually, and key points. Thank you for sharing. I want to also to ask you about London, of course, about the conference. So London Community Week is coming up, so could you please share with us about your talk topic? But I know that it will be something else, not talk topic, just with your lecture. So can you share with us the topic and about your role on the conference? And
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. I enjoyed it last year a lot. It was lovely to have a community conference that doesn't involve being on an 11-hour flight to San Francisco. So yeah, no, I really loved it. And it was a really great vibe last year, and I'm excited to get back again. So I will be on a panel speaking about agencies and how that has an impact in community. I think we're still working out the finer details of what the panel will be about, but I'm excited to bring, hopefully, my expertise to share with the room about how what we're doing and hopefully a bit of our expertise.
Can you share with us for now and for our audience who are just watching this podcast, key insight or top 3 points that you want to share with the audience during the conference about your challenges, about your maybe insights doing community agency?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say, I think because the room is going to be generally filled with community managers or founders who are building out community, I think for me, the focus needs to be on building out that really great relationship with your agency, whether you're working with a branding agency or a technical agency or a paid ads agency, whatever sort of team, external contractors.
Yeah.
It's really important that you see those people as allies, not as like enemies who are taking money from you, because the sooner you can build that trust and that you're all going in the same direction and there's openness and transparency there, it just pays back so quickly rather than having quite a cold relationship, rather than just seeing it as like a cost center. I'm not sure if you have a similar sort of experience in your line of work, but as soon as someone, you know, and you get that feel very early on in a sales call with somebody, whether or not they're telling you everything. And if they're not telling you everything, it raises a red flag whether or not they're going to be completely honest in the relationship going forward. And I'm sure, you know, if Richard Millington or Brian or many of the other, you know, community consultants was part of the panel, I'm sure they'd have a similar conversation. We need to know all the information. What is the business goal? Is it to make 10 times profit, or is it to stop people leaving? If you don't tell us what the fire is, we can't help fix it. So yeah.
Okay, business goals, maybe something else, like some key points of your speech.
My speech? I'm not giving a speech.
Yeah, I mean, during the discussion. I know that you don't know questions, and actually nobody knows because it will be panel discussion, but maybe something else. I really feel you. What do you mean about understanding business goals? Because sometimes you just have a call with the founder and it's super brief that we need to do something, but you need to understand it deeper. You need to find really deep need for what this business needs the community and to do. Okay, I mean, maybe something else you want to add in this space.
Okay, for sure. So I've currently got something which I'm really enjoying sharing at the moment, which is so much of us spend all of our time on the internet, and we are trying to use AI, and we're trying to do a million things at once, and we're trying to push our communities forward. And I've got something that's deep rooted in me, which just says, I think sometimes we need to take learnings from other places. So I recently spoke at CMX, and I spoke about how we can take learnings from hospitality and apply that to what we're doing in community. So, you know, the experience of a waiter or a waitress sitting you down, how can we take learnings from how a restaurant runs into our communities? And I think we can do that in so many walks of life. You know, you walk into an airport and they're piling hundreds of thousands of people through it a day. There's something there in terms of operations that we can learn as community managers in signposting or how to look after people with accessibility issues. And I just think sometimes we're so focused on reading about community and reading about internet and trends. Sometimes we could just look around the coffee shop we're in, or the train station, or, you know, the building industry, and learn something. And I think that's something that I've really been thinking about a lot over the last 12 months, is actually there's only so many webinars you can attend. Sometimes you just need to kind of look around and notice what's happening in the real world.
Yeah. Thank you for being so honest about that. Thank you so much. And you know, I have a question listening to you about your motivation. You have a lot of things on your plate and a lot of things, a big background. But for now, what motivates you? What inspires you to do your job every day?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I have a strong belief that there are enough billionaires in the world receiving money from ads and social networks. And I think I really want to see businesses embrace community as a sustainable way of growing rather than just throwing money at pay-per-click. I think there's a time and a place for paid advertising and social advertising. I just think having built a business for 10 years, there's something special in building a community around it, which builds you for longevity rather than just going, I'm going to throw all of my budget at ads and hope it sticks and just make a couple of rich men richer. They don't need that. But what we can do is we can get back to our roots of community and build out more sustainable business plans based on that rather than just throwing money at Google ads. Yeah, I feel quite strongly about that.
Yeah, thank you. It's deep and so meaningful. Yeah, thank you for sharing.
If you want to be building a business to last, then you need people in your circle looking at you, not you holding up, adverts, hoping people are going to see them and click through because your thing is flashier and you've outspent someone else who's in the same market as you. And I just think, I would rather have a smaller circle of people who are really dedicated to what we're doing rather than just a few fleeting kind of passers-bys. I want to have those real connections with our clients and our customers and our network, not just a bunch of people kind of coming through and leaving and we never see them again. So
I understand you. Yeah, and just wanted to say that 100% agree. I know that this way is not for everyone, but what I hear, and I agree with you in this case, it's so important to find such clients that you really are connected with and who appreciate what you are doing and who understands deeply that building community, it's not the same that building sales, building marketing, building product. It's connection with all of these departments, all of these fields, but it's not the same. And it's big long-term game. And it's super important to find its clients that understand what you are doing and how this long way we need to do together. So yeah,
And I think they can sit side by side, right? Like you can have a new client join you, in whatever industry you're in. But your job and the role of building community as a core part of your business is how do we get those people from being someone who pays an invoice every month to someone who is excited to learn about what you're doing as a business? Like as soon as, I can think of a handful of brands that I actively check what they're doing rather than waiting for them telling me what I'm doing. So if I take Strava as an instance, I'm constantly checking what features Strava are releasing. They don't have to email me to tell me they've just released a new way of planning your route. I know that because I'm constantly checking it because I'm an advocate. I will tell people about Strava. And that's the sort of people I want in my, as part of our clients. And I think the quicker you can get people from being customers to advocates, it's like growing your marketing team, isn't it? It's like you've just grown out this massive sales engine around your business and you've got these fantastic advocates who are singing your praises, and that's what I love, mate.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. I love that. Like just telling about your journey, about your digital communities journey, agencies journey, everything, like your journey, about some of your failures or some of your proudest moments, because I know that of course we have a lot of failures, it's okay, but maybe you have like the biggest or one mistake that you remember and this ended up teaching you something important, and vice versa, something that you most proud of right now about your journey.
I think for me, as a young business owner, I didn't quite realize when to sprint and when to walk. And I think sometimes as a business owner or a community manager who's juggling a lot of hats, it can just feel like you're sprinting from thing to thing. And ultimately, at some point, you're going to break. Like it's not sustainable. And I think it's important to learn just through experience and seniority, when is time to actually treat it like a marathon, and when it's time to treat it like a sprint. You can't sprint to every new feature, to every new sales target. It's just not sustainable. And that's how burnout happens. And ultimately, you won't cross the finish line if you have to take a 4 or 6 week break in the middle because you're struggling so much. I think for me, that was a big one, is learning how to do that. And if you're managing a team, how your team manage that, having an eye on, at the moment, Jonathan is currently sprinting and has been for the last 10 weeks. That's not sustainable. We need to slow that pace down and really having a good understanding of that. And I think from a proudest point of view, we run in London, we run something called the Community Dinner Club. So we meet every so often in London. We book a private room in a restaurant and we just gather community experts. And I think for me, that's a really special time where we get to sit down, be really honest and vulnerable with each other. The last one we ran, we had the head of community for TikTok UK come along, and she shared some thoughts with us about how community and TikTok kind of go hand in hand. And that's, for me, is just like real validation of, like, I kind of know what I'm talking about now. And that feels like, I don't know, it was nice being in a room and feeling like I wasn't the new community person in the room. It felt like I was part of that group, and it felt very validating. And it felt very humbling to be in a group of incredible community builders who have been doing it for a long time in their careers, and being able to just converse on these kind of conversations. And yeah, that's a real highlight for me.
Wow. And it's interesting how you remember all of these things, because I think now a lot of guys in LinkedIn, in your podcast, see that you saw before in other community managers. They see like maybe role model in you, and just so interesting how you remember all of these small things, and it's so nice. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Pete, what about trends? Maybe you see some trends in community building, community management, community marketing, or some trends you are just try to follow with your clients in your work.
Yeah. So I'm not going to talk about AI, but that's obviously a massive topic, and will be talked about for the rest of the time. What I am seeing is from my point of view, we're seeing quite a big shift in community platforms. We're seeing various community platforms either disappear, close, or being acquired. Chorus was acquired last week, I think, and we're kind of seeing this happen. And I think what I am noticing in the off-the-shelf kind of SaaS model point of view for community platforms is we're seeing a bit of a resurgence on platforms built on top of other traditional stacks. So, for instance, Tightknit is built on top of Slack. Now, we know Slack isn't going anywhere. So Tightknit being sat on top of that feels like a really safe bet. And I think we're seeing more people having to choose safer platforms because the turnover of them is so fast. And I'm seeing lots of smaller platforms picking a very niche, building on safe technology, whether it's, we're using Salesforce as the CRM system, that, building on top of stable ground and going from there. And we're seeing that with our clients as well. A lot of them, they've been on various things, doesn't quite feel right for them, or they can't quite get the features they want. So they want something which they feel like they have a bit more control over, because they're concerned about the movement of platforms at the moment, because it feels like we're going from a big pool of them during COVID, and it's just whittling down as the VC money is starting to wrap up. And that is a concern.
Okay. And also, to continue this topic, first thing, it's about trends, but also we have a lot of community managers here on our podcast and also during the conference who are just starting their journey in community management. And can you share with them your advice to them, or advices to them, how is better to grow, to continue their way in community building?
Yeah, I think if you are a community builder, a little bit like being a teacher or a doctor or a nurse or a vet, you're doing that job because you love it and you're probably good at it. You wouldn't be a community builder if you didn't love it and you weren't good at it. It's probably something that comes very natural to you. So you've probably got that bit sorted. The bit that I see as the difference between really successful senior community managers and folks who are starting out is the ability to articulate the value of their community to the people who are paying the salaries. So ultimately, as a CM, yes, you need to be able to engage your community. You need to be able to drive these initiatives, and you're probably great at that already. But are you able to then take the statistics from that and articulate it in a report or in a keynote to your manager's manager, explaining why your line item on the budget matters? And I think that is a skill which comes through experience. But the quicker you can learn the terminology, the quicker you can understand that ultimately your boss's boss probably doesn't care about the number of comments. They probably care about the number of signups. That is when you start moving, in my opinion, from that more junior role all the way through to a senior role who can be taken and be able to go into a room. And when you make an ask for more budget or a new initiative or a big event you want to run, it becomes a lot more sustainable if you're able to justify it. And I think that is a big learning for lots of people.
And I think you're talking about the senior community managers and their mindset. I agree 100%. And I think you're also talking about helicopter view or something, to see the whole picture of the business and how I can influence with the community with some instruments to.
When I speak with really senior CMs, they're in product development meetings, they're in marketing meetings, they're in sales meetings, they're in as many like boardrooms as they can, because they understand that the more of the business that their community can influence, the more impact they can have. And as soon as you start showing results, it's hilarious how these teams of folk who maybe didn't understand what community was, all of a sudden understands that you have this incredibly engaged user base who are ready to beta test your product, or who want to hear about your new, plan or sales strategy or whatever it is. And they all kind of come back to you. But you want to make as many allies as you can in that business, because you want to be touching as much of it as possible.
Wow, I agree. It's so true, and it's so important, especially when you're working with businesses and you have a lot of different goals and you need to show results. Of course, everyone needs, and community managers as well. It's super interesting. Thank you for sharing. And actually, I have last one question. It's favorite. I ask everyone about that. Just about your vision and about the future. If you had to describe the vision and the future of communities in 3 words, what would they be?
It's going to be automation, exciting, and the last one is probably the most important one. It has to stay human. We need to stop giving AI all of the fun jobs. Like, why are we letting AI write content? Why are we letting AI paint things, draw things? Let's let AI do boring stuff like moderation. Let's let the humans focus on the connection and the creativity. And I think for me, I heard Evan at CMX speak about how they're using AI at HubSpot, and he just shared some incredible insights. And I think the quicker we learn that we need to be using AI for the boring, repetitive tasks, not the exciting tasks that really need a human. AI doesn't understand what it's like to walk into a conference and feel the buzz of being in a room of people who are like you. But we as humans do. And if we understand what that feels like, we know how to curate that and make it for ourselves. AI can't plan that. It can plan what the agenda looks like, sure, but it can't create that buzz. And we need to start realizing what AI can do and can't do at this point in time, and leave the human bits to the humans. That's the bit I want to leave with. So
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, Pete. Thank you for your thoughts, for your energy. A lot of thought that you mentioned today just for me was a good reminder to do some things. And they say, wow, yeah, I agree. And I need to take it with me and to do something similar with my clients, for example. And I'm looking forward actually to the conference because this discussion, this panel will be so interesting and so meaningful for a lot of different community managers, for a lot of agencies actually, because we will have them also. So thank you very much. Thank you, and see you in London.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you. I will see you in London, and I will see everyone who's listening in London. If you haven't got your ticket yet, you need to get your ticket. Get your ticket.
yeah. I'm waiting now for my visa, and I hope everything will be okay, and I will be in
It will be
UK.
fab.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you once again. See you offline in some weeks.
See you there. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, bye bye.